Hello, one and all. Welcome to Spirit Sessions, a view of the light where it is always an adventure. And in fact, today we're getting into some shenanigans. So hold on and we'll tell you about it in a minute. Take some smudge here just to help you release the day so you can come on into this very special place and have a good time right now. Because here at Spirit Sessions, we really, really honor self-love. And we get the best guests on. But first of all, let me explain. Rhonda's not here, but her heart is here with us today. So I want you to feel Rhonda's energy and to send some love back to Rhonda. And we have a guest co-host whom I love so much and visit every morning. And it is Jessica Dugas.
Yes.
And Jessica is the mastermind of so many things, and including so many new things. I don't even know if I can keep up. So I totally admire you. And along your trail, you picked up Trista. And so will you introduce Trista to us?
I have picked up Trista. I've picked up so many people in my I feel like I have a magic backpack like Dora or something. Fun fact, I don't even remember how I met Trista originally. Like I would really have to go down the rabbit hole of that. However, I knew from the moment that I met her that our energy was aligned in some other dimension. Mm-hmm. We had so much in common. Yes, similar things in common, but our energy was very similar. And I enjoyed hosting her on several shows and learned that she is an incredible coach. She's an incredible mentor. She is an author. Look at me being Vanna White of Self-Love Shenanigans. And when she told me about this newest project that she was embarking on of getting into the charms, I thought this is just a match made and somewhere amazing. And so I'm very excited. And also I will add on a personal note, Trista has become a dear friend and I appreciate her so much. And so it is my pleasure to introduce Trista Polo here on Spirit Sessions today.
Woo!
Thank you. Wow. I couldn't have paid for a better introduction.
I'm here all day.
So nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I love that. I've been wanting to get you on for a while, so I'm glad divine timing finally worked out, to bring us together like this. Of course, We're pre-recording for Sunday, so if we all act weird, you guys, now you know why. We're pre-recording this ahead of time.
On the new moon.
Yes, even that, on the new moon. I've been waiting so long for this new moon, and I'm so excited. But before we get started on the show, we always have somebody pull a card for the week ahead. However, because we've got Trista Polo, we are going to pull a charm for the week ahead. So will you show us how this works?
Well, this is my personal ritual, and charms can come from anything, including stuff around your house that matters to you or that has special meaning or connection. So this is my personal ritual. I do this every single morning. I have this beautiful bowl, this crystal bowl that I keep them in, and this is my personal collection. So I'm just going to pull the charm for today because I didn't actually pull one yet for today. So I always ask with the intention of what will support me most today. Oh, an anchor.
Ooh, neat.
An anchor.
Are we surprised with me being on this phone, Trista? I mean,
I was waiting for the blue duck.
I know. I don't have a blue duck in here, actually. That's not that would be Jessica's bowl. Show us your charms. I have been on such a expansive, transformational explosion right now. I've gotten back into journaling. I'm meditating every day. I'm grounding every day. A lot of things that I had put aside during a healing journey that's more on the physical side of things. So now I've really been healing and growing spiritually. And when I do that, when I'm really deep into my spiritual journey, I can sometimes forget that I'm human first in a body
Yeah.
that needs to be taken care of also. And so I'm seeing this as a reminder to stay anchored in the physical. I really love being in the spiritual. I love it. I'm getting chills just, saying this out loud to myself, but stay anchored. The physical is what you're doing here. It is the work as well. So don't put it aside. Don't forget about it. Make sure that I'm balanced and anchored here in the world. Jessica, what does it mean to you? Because I know oceany type nautical things matter to you a lot as well.
They do. And so I wasn't surprised. But yeah, so the anchor, it's very similar, like making sure we're taking that time to do that grounding work like you're talking about, because I am also similar. I'm a dreamer. I'm an envisioner. I love to plan and get excited and all of that. And sometimes in that sort of, I wouldn't say completely future-based excitement, but in that like foreshadowing and that, ooh, we're moving forward, here we go, we forget to take care of the body and to do those very important things that we need to do as humans. And I personally really love this message because, as a good friend of mine used to say, good luck not paying your rent in the 5D. So we can be as spiritual as we want, but we have human responsibilities and things that we need to do. So I think it's a great reminder.
Beautiful. I love it. We did choose to come here and have the physical experience.
Right.
So we should. We may as well.
Yeah. Can't really enjoy it any other way.
That's
what
right.
we signed up for. Well, I love that. That was a lot of fun. So I'm curious, what is it that brought you to the charms? Because when I'm at either like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and I'm over there, I'm looking at the wire wrap stuff, and that's the same section where where that all is, and I'm going, oh my God, and I'm feeling all this inspiration, and I'm thinking somebody's got to do this, and then I find that you've done that. But it's not just about those charms, like you said, it's the things, like it could have been something your mom had that you have, or some, it could be full of the most amazing treasures. So tell me about how you came to start using these treasures.
It was actually a complete accident, which is funny because charm casting and divination is an ancient practice. I didn't know that until I saw other people doing it on TikTok. When I was a kid, my mom was super into psychics, tarot card readers, palm readers, etc. And she decided to take me to a tarot card and palm reader, which I had never been to before. And long story short, the palm reader told me that I had a break in my lifeline, which was protected by a cross line. So I was going to have a really horrible accident and barely survive and have a very difficult, strenuous time getting better, but that I would survive and that it would happen sometime in my midlife. And I'm a very impressionable person anyway.
Right.
Like, if you want to sell me something, show me a cool ad. Make me try and I'll buy it. I'm very impressionable. So that when I was young and impressionable and looking for meaning and value, I couldn't get rid of it. I really spent my whole life watching the line, checking it, making sure that cross line is still there, waiting for the to drop my whole life. And so and then I thought, well, Oracle cards aren't that. Oracle cards are gentle.
Yeah.
They're loving. So I got really into Oracle cards. And then my favorite Oracle card person not only denounced Oracle cards, but denounced me as a demon. So I'm like, okay, again, I'm feeling very unsafe in my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And then I was at a crystal shop. Well, it's really a Wiccan shop, I would say. But they have the whole room of crystals. And I would just go in there and spend time in there. I mean, the energy is amazing. A lot of the crystals I have come from there. But in the middle of the crystal shop, they had a little table of these little trinkets and charms and things. I actually stuff like this. This is one of them, and it says 3 wishes on the back.
Oh, neat.
That's fun. Just all kinds of little fun things. This is one I got from there. It's a flower. Oh, can't see it. And it says joy. So, I just started collecting them. And then I put them in a bag and then I'd start pulling them to see what they had to say. And that it just sort of happened organically as a way for me to find a safe place that I felt like I could trust the messages because I didn't trust myself. And now I actually am tuning into my intuition even more, and I'm trusting it more. So the charms have become a way for me to help people learn to trust their own intuition.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. So that event happened that you mentioned. I didn't ask you if we could talk about that.
I mean, I don't know if that's the event that happened. I mean, I don't know if it was that or something else that's coming still.
Okay.
See, like, I don't know. You know,
Okay.
it's just like it created all this doubt in my life. Is that the event? No.
Oh, pull a charm.
That is not the event.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. Someone once, you know, I've talked about this palm reading thing a bunch of times over my life, and someone felt it could be a spiritual thing, not necessarily a physical thing.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, I have this thing, if you noticed, that I can, because I don't trust myself, I need a lot of proof. I'm a spiritual skeptic.
Yeah.
And so I created a discernment in my body where I use yawning and gagging.
Oh, okay.
It's basically my version of muscle testing.
Right.
I feel like I could fake a muscle test, you know. I could,
And it's this one I have the hard time with. It's like, okay, I can't.
That's another version of that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so special.
Yeah. So
Trista,
yeah.
Trista, you, I mean, prior to doing the charms, you were doing coaching, and you had written your book, which I shared, Self-Love Shenanigans. And so, I mean, we know that you were doing this sort of stuff in the background. What was it that inspired you to sort of come out of the charm closet?
Charm closet. I know. I was always a closet woo-woo person. I did have an accident about a year ago, and while I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, I will say that it, you know, when you have something major happen, you have an illness that you survive, you go through a major surgery, a major accident, etc., it tends to create new opportunities for you to look at what your life is and if you're happy with your choices. And, you know, they always say that if you're on your deathbed, the thing you regret most is what you didn't do or what you didn't say. Okay. And so it sort of feels like that. I feel like this is such a big part of me, my spirituality, but it's something I never felt safe. There's a lot of safety stuff, right, from me in my childhood. So I didn't feel safe sharing it. I didn't want to be judged, ridiculed, you know, rejected, etc. And, you know, when you go through a life-changing moment, at least for me, I said, what am I hiding from? What am I waiting for? Because my coaching has always included intuition. It just does, even though I didn't realize it. And so now I can pair the intuition with the coaching, which makes me a better coach. And it also allows me to bring intuition work into others and help them through my own intuition and help them grow their own.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm wondering, what is it that the most people are coming to you with these days when they come to you for coaching? Mostly
it's about their own empowerment of being the best that they can be. A lot of it that I do is with people in corporate world where they own a business or they work as a manager. So it's a lot of leadership, communication, emotional intelligence, being able to have empathy and work with people however they show up. And there's a lot of communication in there as well. So that has been the main crux. I'm about to start going live. By the time this comes out, I will have gone live on TikTok for the first time.
Yay.
I'm just going after my friend Jessica. She was on live this morning. I saw her. And so I think that there will be probably a shift. It'll probably become a little more personal when I start talking to people, because that's what I tend to see is more personal inquiries. But we'll see. I'm excited for the journey. I'm on this journey. And that's what I really love about it so much, is that I'm just on a journey. I'm surrendering to all of it. I'm seeing what it looks like. And I highly recommend surrender. It's something I've struggled with.
I love that.
and I've talked about it a lot, like the struggle of how hard it is to actually surrender to the universe or the higher self or whatever it is you call it, to have your back and have the best possible journey for you if you just let them.
Well, let's talk about that, because that it really is hard to come
Yeah.
to stop and a surrender. I've tried this myself, and it actually, for me, it came to, I really only did it once. Okay. But so maybe I need to do more. But that time, what came to me was I hoped that things would come to a stop and it would work out. Oh, here's my free time or whatever, my day to surrender. But what it was, I actually had to plan for 3 days to get things set up for that day, get everything moved to another day and stuff. And then when I finally got there and I'm ready to surrender, it's like, oh gosh, but there's all this I can do now that I'm not doing all the normal. and it's like, it was just so rough that actually what I did was took a nap. Okay. So that was my surrender. And as I was falling asleep, I got an amazing download, and I'm like, oh, so this is how we do it, So tell me about, what is surrender to you, and why do we make it so hard for ourselves?
Well, I was inspired to look at surrendering by the book from Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment. Have you read The Surrender Experiment?
No.
If you have not, I highly recommend it. He went from being this yogi who loved to meditate to being this corporate, probably by now he's a billionaire. And he wrote another book, The Untethered Soul, which is his more popular book.
Yeah,
this is actually my favorite of his, because it talks about when he was willing to surrender, his whole life changed. And he started to follow his intuition. And when he would get these nudges, like he met somebody and he was told to meet with them for coffee, and he did not want to. And he's like, no, I'm supposed to surrender, so I will. And he ended up having this amazing experience. And just his whole life was kind of like that. My experience with surrender, I choose a word at the beginning of each year.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so like years ago, I said, all right, surrender is my word. And then what ended up happening is all year, this terrible stuff kept coming up for me to have to surrender into. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't. And I'm like, what was I thinking? And so I realized that that's probably not the way to go about it. Yeah. But I wanted so much to live my life the way you talked about, like, okay, I'm just going to sit and meditate and wait for something to come to me. I'm not doing anything until it comes to me. I'm surrendering my life to source. Yeah. And I think it's not that either for me. I think, first of all, I want to say spirituality is such a personal exploration, and the answers you have are all inside you. This was told to me years ago. I didn't believe it. I'm finally coming to terms with it. Everything I need is inside. I can take a course, hire a coach, get a mentor, learn how to be a psychic or a medium or whatever, a channel from other people. And if I'm willing to do the work, it is all inside me. And all of that stuff isn't the answer. It's just support. And so that's a huge paradigm shift that has been there for me. So I just want to say that as a caveat, like I'm not instructing anyone because I believe you have all the answers. So this is just like my personal exploration of surrender. So what I have found is that the more I'm willing to surrender as not like a have to, like, okay, I'm going to surrender now, right? Because there's no ease in that.
Yeah, it's the white flag, everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like I'm willing, the willingness. I'm willing to follow a higher message than the one that comes from here.
Maybe open to following.
Yes, exactly. And so then things will come to me to do. It's like an inspired to. I'll get these inspired thoughts or something inspired that comes up in a journal session, or like you said, a download in a meditation. And all of a sudden I have all this like stuff that didn't occur to me before. And so then what I do is what I do with other things, which I just have joy. I have joy and gratitude and acceptance and appreciation whenever it happens, because what you focus on expands.
Yes.
And so then I get more of it and more of it and more of it. And so when I tried for a year, to surrender, I was like, well, I failed that class. I guess I have to do it over. And now that I'm allowing myself to experience what it might be like to surrender,
Yeah.
it's actually pretty fun, and it's easy, and it's not difficult. It's not angst filled. I kept saying to myself, I got to go reread that book by Michael Singer because I got to surrender.
Yeah.
And then when I just started to think about the book and think about Michael Singer, instead of having to go restudy,
Yeah.
it's already inside me, I was able to just fall into it more, release the resistance.
That's surrender at its best, isn't it?
Yeah.
Releasing all that. And there's things, surrendering doesn't always mean that sometimes it's surrender to our empowerment, surrender to the gratitude, or surrender to the joy. And there's other things. And I think it's pretty exciting that it's not just, surrender, let it go. Yeah. So it's kind of neat.
One
I
thing
love that you use the word being, though, Trista, because or not. It just keeps coming up in a lot of things that I'm doing right now, is this idea of just being rather than doing or trying or just or whatever we want to put in there. Being in the moment, because and also this idea of surrendering, of understanding that a surrender could look different than what we think it might look like. Sometimes we think of it in that way of, well, I'll just release and wait for what comes. But I'm a big known for saying, pray without ceasing, but God gives us hands and feet for a reason. And so sometimes surrendering to me looks like, we'll just get to work and see what happens.
Love this.
That.
It's so true. Yeah. Because the surrender became easier when I started journaling every day.
Oh.
Like that's, instead of just sitting around and waiting for something. So I love that you added that. And I want to also add one more thing. I sometimes struggle with, does surrender mean I have to do everything that comes up for me to do, even the things that feel uncomfortable? And I really believe that there's a difference between uncomfortable to grow, like outside my comfort zone, and uncomfortable because it doesn't align with my energy, and it will deplete me. And so that, I think, is an important thing to discern as well. And I've had that own experience, so I wanted to put it out here too. And Jessica, maybe you have another thought on that as well. Like, it's not about doing everything that's going to make me feel drawn and tired and miserable at the end of it, because it depleted me, but it also could be something outside my comfort zone so I can grow from it. So do you have any thoughts about that?
That's a huge part of discernment, right? I mean, and I will waffle on about that in my head a lot. Actually, like, am I just tired, or like, what is this that's happening right now? Yeah. Because there is that question. I think there's these two. I think people see it as two schools of thought, like that either this is hard because it's hard, it's going to be hard and it's meant to stretch you, or this is hard because it's not meant for you. When in actuality, it could be all in between, outside of it could be any of that. And so that when I made it for me, and the end of 2019, I made this like huge declaration for myself where I said, I'm just going to do what brings me joy. Now, you could look into that and go, well, that's silly, Jessica, because you still have to do dishes and do things that you don't want to do. So how could you possibly? But what that meant for me is not an either or sort of thing. It's a whatever I come across, I'm going to do my best to choose to live it with joy, that being, rather than waiting for it to be a joyful thing. I'm not going to, I guess I'm okay with the fact that I don't have a maid knocking on my door right now offering to just clean my whole house for me. I guess that's fine. But it's like, okay, I know that I have to do some organizing when I get off this recording today. So I'm going to crank up the music and I'm going to play a game with it and have fun with my kids. And I'm going to do what I love to do this time of year and just whine about the heat or whatever, it's that sort of, it's just a being. And so it goes back to what we were saying before too, I think, of just allowing, and it doesn't have to be this black and white either or sort of thing.
I
Wow.
love that. You wear your joy colored glasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, I love this, but I'm thinking, and that's, you got to watch out. Okay, so as we're surrendering to things and as we're discerning things, what about the pity party? Okay, I'm thinking about Jessica and the weather and all of us. And what about, when is it inappropriate to surrender to a pity party? And when is it appropriate to get over it, dust yourself off, and get back in?
I'd love to share a story my dad would tell me, in a philosophy of his about that. We're never going to have a moment. We're never going to have a life where we don't feel disappointed, upset, angry, etc. It's not about deleting those emotions.
Right.
He said it's actually about being able to shorten the time between when it starts and when it ends to a goal of this quick. Like, okay, I'm upset. I got it.
Yeah.
And so that's the philosophy that really resonated with me when he shared it. Because that I struggled with that too. Like, what? I'm supposed to never be angry. I'm supposed to never be stressed or upset. I don't get how that's possible.
Right.
And so that gives me freedom to have feelings and to transform them.
Yeah.
As well. Like Jessica, that's exactly what you're talking about. You can do anything with joy as a choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally love that. I remember a story way back. I don't even remember the source. I think it was a book I read. But it was somebody who was moving into a new house or new apartment, and the people, man, they spent time decorating it and putting flowers all over and everything. And then the woman came in to move, and they go, well, how do you like it? Oh, I love it. And then they realized, but you're blind. You can't even see all this. And the choice was within. I love what you guys have done and stuff. And so I thought that was so beautiful, the way you reframe it, the way you look, the choice you make, all these things are just beautiful little tools that we can use. So I love that.
Absolutely.
As you're talking about, now that you've said pity party, I feel free to be able to bring this up. Sometimes when we're working with when we're leaning into learning our intuition, working with that, we like to have little pity parties when certain things come up that we don't understand why we're getting a certain message that we might be getting. How do you handle that, Trista, when spirit, however anybody wants to refer to it out there, gives you a message and you're like, but why?
Do you know how many of my journal pages are filled with why?
Really? Okay.
I mean, so many. I always want to understand and know. Yesterday, I was in physical therapy and I have to do 5 minutes on a treadmill. But in order to make the 5 minutes count, I have to do it with a really high incline. And I just wasn't feeling it in the heat and everything yesterday. But what I do is, you know how you talked about doing dishes. So if you do dishes as a meditation, then it's about really being the doing of the dishes. So I'm like, all right, I'll do that with the treadmill and I'll meditate on the treadmill. And what I got was, what if I breathed into my body strength and vitality with every breath, and out of my body the pain and, whatever else was going on that didn't work for my body. And so that's what I got. So I stopped asking why and I started asking how. But I will tell you, today in my journal session, yesterday was my stepmother's birthday. Today is my aunt's birthday. I lost my dad a few years ago, and I'm journaling and I'm like, I want to talk to my dad. And it's like, no. Why? None of your business.
Oh,
all right.
Interesting.
I want to talk to my grandfather, his father. No. Why? None of your business. This was my journal session today.
Okay.
Well, then how about my grandmother, his mother? No. I'm like, what are they, at a family conference?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yes. Yes, and you're not invited. Like, this is what I got out of my, and I'm like, come on. I was really annoyed, but I said, okay, I surrender. I allow it. So I talked to myself instead. Yeah.
See how the universe arranges ways for us to tap back into what's within and stop seeking that which is outside of us all the time.
All
I think
the
it's
time.
human nature. It's human nature for us to do that. I wanted to ask you too, because so I mentioned your book a couple times, Self-Love Shenanigans.
Mhm.
How, because you came out the book first and then you released the came out of the charm closet, as we said, and all of that. So how has the charm journey been a part of your own self-love journey?
It's all of it.
Mm.
It's all of it. Being willing to be authentically you, being willing to come out of whatever closet you're hiding in. You know, we use that as a term, but anything that you hide from the world, you could come out of the closet. And so I love that you call it that. But it's everything. Being willing to be authentically me. I remember, I shouldn't even share this story. I was at a funeral sitting next to my uncle. And while we were in prayer, everybody's hands were like this on their legs. And I went like this. And it was like he heard my energy shift or something. And he looked down. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I put my hands back.
Oh.
So then he closed his eyes. And I put them back up again because that's how I was comfortable. I wanted to receive,
Yeah, right.
you know, and be part. And he looked again. Like I just wasn't even willing to have my hands turned up because I felt like it wasn't okay. And so being able to be spiritual in public, that is all about self-love. And it was the becoming what's in that book and the writing of that book and the sharing of that book that actually allowed me permission, that I gave myself permission. So it's all connected, even though it feels like two separate projects.
Oh, how exciting. So that book.
That's such a great reminder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. I know we can't get enough talk about the self-love, even though, you know, it sounds cliche after time, but really everything comes back to that because our self-love, our self-trust, our self-worth, all of that matters so much, even as we go out into the world and the opinions that we have of what happens to us or doesn't, all comes back from having the heart settled. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. All the work that I've done on my intuition is about being able to trust my intuition, to trust that I am good enough, worthy enough that I could get an answer from source and it would be correct. Do you know how much self-worth and self-love and personal faith that takes?
Wow. Beautiful.
I mean, you can tell me, both of you, if you agree with that, but I feel like if I don't feel worthy, nobody's going to be talking to me. Certainly not my force, certainly not spirit guides, certainly not my past on ancestors. They have better things to do. That, you know, that kind of self-talk. I feel like intuition is all about faith in yourself and the process. And I think that starts with self-love. That's how I feel about it.
Beautiful. I like how you put that together with the faith and intuition and all that. That's perfect.
Well, I'd love, you're both very intuitive, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and how you see it as well.
I mean, for me, like, it's interesting because I've been exploring this love thing for quite some time, and really since I was a child. And I'm not going to get it because this show is about Trista today, but I had this thing when I was a child that I did. I used to love to make up like little seminars and things, basically doing what I was doing now, but in the living room and only for my grandmother, who I'm sure was annoyed with me. But anyway, I did this whole thing about love when I was 10 years old. Like, I look back at that now and I'm just like, Jessica, what in the world? Anyway, where was your blue duck then? Okay. So I've been exploring this word love. And as I'm thinking about self-love, and I got into this conversation with my very dear, I love him so much, co-host Ferran Dozier from Beyond 2D, the other night about, self-love, because he's been sort of on this journey as well. And he admitted, he's like, I don't love myself 100%. And I could admit that. And I said, it's interesting with me because I feel like I do love myself 100%. Do I always like myself? That's another story. I annoy the daylights out of myself sometimes. And so I'm sort of on this, I don't know, mini exploration on my journey right now of exploring the things that come along with self-love. So the worthiness, our value that we give ourselves, our being, and if I love myself, what does it mean when I do XYZ, or when I'm being this way, or whatever? And so I'm in this I'm down a rabbit hole right now, is what I'm saying to you. And which is normal for me, but I think that we have to, in order to go down this rabbit hole about self-love and really evaluate that love that we have for ourselves, we need to go back to what our definition is of love. And I think that that's so important, because I could say, Trista, I love you. I'm going to send you a blue duck in the mail. And you could be like, okay, because the blue duck might mean that I love you. Yeah. And then you might send me, I don't know, a bicycle, and I'll go, and you're like, but I love you. And I'm like, so I think just as we experience those things from other people, if whatever we're doing, saying, being with ourselves, going, okay, what does that mean though? Like, what is the definition of that? And is that definition part of love for us? So that's the little rabbit hole I'm down right now. Yay.
That's amazing. Yeah. I would jump right into that hole with you and run all the way down it.
Well, because that matters, the perceptions and things, and then unlearning the things that we learned that don't fit, as it's so neat to come to the values that we have now after we've been through so much, and to revisit some of the old values that we had and kind of update them a little bit,
Boy, oh boy, you're so right. I think about how recognition focused I used to be.
Okay.
I remember I went to a Abraham Hicks, you could go to their live things, and it was in Connecticut. And I was like, wow, she's getting up there in age. I want to be the one that replaces her. Like, that's what I said to myself when I was sitting in the audience. Yeah. And just today in my journal session, I said, that doesn't matter to me anymore. So I still want to expand others' transformation, help them expand their own, right? Because I can't do it for them.
So important. Yeah.
But I don't need the recognition now. I don't need the fame and fortune and celebrity. That was one of the reasons I wanted to do that back then. So you're absolutely right. Not that that's a value, but definitely like our foundational things that drive us and our values. I agree with you. I think they do change over time.
And then, like, when I'm in the Akashic records and reading for people and stuff, sometimes it's like, when it happens with a lot of people, I know it's a general message coming in, and collectively, it's like we've been through a lot of things now, and now we're beginning our steps to the final ending of all this and the beginning of the next golden age. And we're all here as different kind of bridges, helping everybody come to accept that. But within all of that, all the things that we thought we could be, like, oh, this would be the greatest thing if I could be this in my life and stuff. The truth is that now there's actually new things coming in. It's almost like sometimes you could start taking on the karma from a life you haven't lived yet if you've already finished everything. It's like we're taking on new skills here, and it's actually more exciting than ever. I feel like we're climbing over a wall and seeing, like the veil is going to be removed, and we're going to see so many beautiful things.
I love all of that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Weird stuff I see.
I want to talk about some charms. Can we talk about some charms with Trista? Yeah. Because I want to talk about the little pity party hissy fit that I had in my last
Okay.
my last order of charge from Trista. No, this is good though. This will be great, I promise. So sometimes you pull a card, or in our case, we're talking about charms. You pick a charm and you're like, what does this have to do with anything at all?
Mhm.
And inside my charm, see, I showed off before my blue duck. That came in my first set of charms.
Mhm.
This time, I got 2 pink flamingos.
I know you did. Isn't that fun?
Okay, so okay, can you see
How cute.
how cute they are? Adorable, I will give that. But one of the things that I love, and we'll get into this in just a minute, Trista, about your process with these. When you're working with the charms, Trista encourages you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. To go, what's your first thought about these? Like, what are you thinking about these?
Yeah.
And so the first thing that came in my mind is it's hot as hell this week. And I moved out of the South for a reason. And these flamingos remind me of Florida.
Okay.
And why? No, I don't like this. And I was having I'm like, no, I don't want to play this anymore. And so I found that funny. But I did a thing earlier, and I was telling Teresa about this before you came on today. So I have had some big breakthrough moments, go figure, of my own self this week. And I drew this thing on a paper to sort of help myself visualize what I want to see with my work going forward. Like, how will it take shape?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm sitting here waiting to come on to the show today to record. And I said, let me just throw some charms on this little thing that I drew out here. And I just see, and and guess what comes out onto the damn paper?
Flamingo.
Both of them.
Both flamingos.
Both flamingos. And so and I did this before I went, because I've already looked at all the charms in my last batch from Trista. And so I hadn't like gone really, because what I do is I write down my first initial like thought about the charms, and then I go and look up like, what's the symbolism of this, the color, the what have other people and then because I allow myself to go down that rabbit hole with it. Flamingos are known for being about community.
Okay.
And don't you know that they landed on my paper within an inch of where it said the word community? Isn't
So
that
weird.
funny? Isn't that funny?
So weird.
So I think so. I'm saying all of this because I want you all to be excited as we ask Trista the question. As we ask Trista the question, what is the actual process? Take people through how you read the charms.
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I set an intention. So if I'm doing are you asking me like as a reading?
Yeah, like how if you were to just pull one charm for yourself like you did before, like when you pulled the anchor out, like you set an intention, right? You pull and then how do you go through that as far as like interpreting what it means in the moment?
Oh, yeah. So the first thing is I think about what's there for me about this. How does this make me feel? What does this remind me of? Because the charm casting process is very personal. Like I can do it with someone, but typically I like to do it live so that we can do it together, because it's not about me guessing what's important to you about your charms. You know, it's not like a psychic test for me, like how much can I guess? It's really more of an intuitive coaching conversation about what this is going to do for you. I find that to be, for me, a very powerful conversation that I can have with people. So what is my first impression? How does it make me feel? The fact that you got those and you felt annoyed and remembered Florida, I'm going to invite you not to discount that, because that could be your remembering how hot it was and why you left, and being annoyed that it's hot here. And what am I doing here? If I could have just been hot in Florida, I didn't, so there could be some of that too. Some of that resistance, like your first impression is important, but you're absolutely right. How it lands if you're using a mat, impacts it as well. You know, there's so much you can do with it, like what color it is, where it lands on the mat, what it's next to. I actually have a series that I'm doing about, I take one charm and I talk about like, this is what it could mean. This is what it meant historically. This is what it means in certain cultures. This is what it means if it's next to something else or a different color. But really, it's like what's in here. Charms can be, and really, I say should be, a very personal journey. And that's why I think everybody should have their own. And that means it could be anything from around their house or things that are important to them. So I really look for like, and then if I'm not getting anything, I will look up the meaning. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not getting anything, I'm not too proud, because, you know, a flamingo is not the typical thing that you typically see, like the moon, the star, the dragonfly, the butterfly, the flower. Right. You know, that's kind of like a outlier. So I'm not above looking up, just like you did, what the meaning is in the world. I have a friend, she's a Reiki master and also a light language practitioner. And she says that the internet is very easy for spirit to use to provide messages. Yeah. So if you look up what's the meaning of this, there could be 70 meanings, but the first one you get is for you, and it's guided to you. So I don't know if that's answering your question. That's just like how I approach it. There's no right answer, though. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. However, what I will say is if you do a charm casting where you throw them on something, if it ends up upside down, I believe that that's something you're resisting about what you're getting. So the flamingo, I don't know that they could be upside down because they're a 3D object. But if you have something like this is a pheasant. I like to think of it actually as a phoenix, but I think it's actually a pheasant. But if you look at it, the back is not, printed with anything. So if it comes upside down, I see it as a resistance that I need to look at. And not as a judgment, but just an opportunity. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because when the bat came out, the bat was upside down. And I thought, of course I'm resisting this because I had bats in my house one time and it scared the crap out of me. So there's that. And even my daughters, when they looked at my charms this time, they said, Mom, why are there 2 bats in here? I was like, well, I don't know, honey, but we're going to figure that out. Anyway. But yeah, so my only question, and then I'll pass it back to Teresa, is because there's this sort of, look, there's unlimited meanings to anything, right? Yeah. But oftentimes with other forms of divination, whether it's oracle cards or tarot cards, it's sort of, there's a set thing. Yes, you can read into it if you would like to, but usually it's presented as this is what it is. Because there are, like you said, the color, the type, where it lands on the paper, all of the what it's next to, all the if it's upside down, all of these different things. Does it ever feel daunting to people that are starting to read charms? Like, I could go any direction with this. What do I do?
Yes, and when people feel that way, I see it as freedom, not restriction. Yeah. And so I get absolutely. There is overwhelm when you're first looking at it from the perspective that you're talking about, because a confused mind can't make a decision. Right. When you look at it, that's where it is an intuition builder, because you really need to look at what you see and how it feels to you. And again, you can look it up if you need to. But by allowing yourself to go on the journey, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That joke came in for me as a answer to a question. That was the intuition answer I got.
Wow.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall? So definitely being with them, you get to know them. I think this was true for my Oracle decks too. Like, I had a relationship with my favorite decks. I have a relationship with my personal charms. Yeah. And it is easier for me to read my personal charms than it is for me to read someone else's charms for them in a reading. Because my energy is so connected to them. I've used them, like we got a thing going on,
Love it. I Love it. Thank you for answering that.
Of course. I love those questions.
Yeah, those are good questions. Thank you so much. What I want to do is, because I'm looking that we got 10 minutes left now, and so much to do. So before I have you tell us, like what's coming up for you, I want to ask the 3 hard questions first.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because we're getting ready to know you here, and I love all the things we're learning. But what I want to know now is you're walking out across the stage. You're out there. You just left the curtain behind, and you're out in the open, and you're walking to the podium. Everybody's out there, Trista, and all that. But there's a song they're playing that gives you the courage to give that message. What is it?
The song is One Girl Revolution
Neat.
by the Super Chicks. Yeah, Super Chick. And this is a picture of a time when that actually happened. I was in a self-development program, and we had to pick a song, and we were asked to come up to the stage and perform it like our soul depended on it.
Oh.
And what the instructions they gave were, you might feel if you need to be scared, you need to do something out of your comfort zone. That's the assignment. So if you would be willing to come up here and dance your heart out, then that's not enough. You have to find a way to level it up even more.
Oh my God.
And so if that means you have to take your shirt off, we've had people be nude up here, like whatever you require, that you are going beyond what you're willing to go, that's the assignment.
Wow.
So this was the song, was the One Girl Revolution, and that was me doing it. And I took my shirt off on stage, because that was what I was like, oh, no problem. I can perform, no problem. They're like, nope, if it's easy, you're not doing it. You're not doing the assignment. So I left on my bra, but I want to tell you now that's just no big deal for me.
Right.
But that day, to be topless, bra on, was so scary and felt so vulnerable and exposed that it took everything I had to do it.
Wow.
And it changed me. Like, it leveled me up. Right now, it's not a big deal to be able to do that. There was someone who actually did undress, because for her, that was her, and it wasn't sexy. It was like, that was her journey.
Right.
But I will never forget that. And they give you a picture to remember it by. But that song was playing. So it's a pretty old song. This was a while ago. Yeah. But every time I hear it, it empowers me.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. It empowers me.
I love that. I love that transformation and stuff that it brought for you to do that, because I've seen that. Like we talked a little bit before, like when I watched RuPaul's Drag Queens.
Yes.
Those people are so transforming inside of them to present something. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what if this was like a retreat instead? Would it still be hard? Well, the thing is, it doesn't matter. It's the transformation that we're looking for. You don't come there just to do a show. You come there to change who you are, and then to have that. And so that's what you did that day. So I love that story you gave us.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share it. Yeah. I don't know the last time I shared that story, if ever.
That's really neat, though. So the next question is, now we can make it special for you. Either what's your favorite gemstone that you're working with right now, or because it's you, what is the favorite charm you have?
Well, this is my favorite charm.
Ooh, yeah.
The dragonflies are my favorite. They're my spirit animal. I have a story about that too, but I'll share it another time. It says hope on the back, which I absolutely love. And this was a gift from a friend. She didn't know I was getting into charms. This was right as I was starting to get into charm readings and a TikTok channel and a website and stuff. I was just about to launch it. And she sent me this because she saw it and thought of me. And I thought, well, if that's not a sign to keep going, I don't know what is. And this is my favorite crystal, because look, it has a dragonfly on it.
Yes, it does. Wow.
Now, I pick crystals by how they feel. I basically go through a crystal shop and I hold them in my
Yeah.
hand. And if it has a good energy, I take it. And if it doesn't, I don't. So I had to look up what this is. If you ever use AI for anything,
Right.
it's really, really good to give it a picture of a plant or a stone.
Oh,
And it'll
neat.
tell you way better than any app I have found.
Oh.
So AI says this is a chalcedony. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Oh,
Agate
yeah.
blend.
How neat.
And it's for serene confidence and heartfelt expression.
Oh, heck yeah.
And it's for your throat chakra, healing, softened truths, and emotional courage, and intuitive clarity.
Woohoo.
So that's my current, because it has a natural, what I'm interpreting as a dragonfly.
I love that.
My whole house is filled with crystals. This year I got them for my birthday for myself.
Oh, yeah.
I was a little more generous than I probably should have been.
Oh, no,
but I deserve it.
Yeah, and they're new friends. You got new friends and new support
Relatable.
So,
Yes,
so the last question then would be like, have you ever had an extra dimensional experience?
I probably have. So here's the one I want to share. Because this is the one I remember the most. I've probably I have two, but I'll share this one. My grandfather was on hospice care. He had a stroke and never really recovered. And so we were sitting vigil with him so he wouldn't be alone. And it was really, really late at night. And he had been holding on because my grandmother was not, like, they got married when she was 18 and he was 20.
Oh.
And they'd been married for like 60 years. And
Wow.
she just really didn't want to go on without him. And he wasn't willing to leave because she didn't want him to leave. Like, it was a don't leave me kind of situation.
Wow.
So finally, my aunt, who is a nurse, talked my grandmother into like letting him go.
Wow.
And letting him know that it was okay.
Yeah.
And so they went through a lot of that. And she finally was able to come to terms with it. And she told him it was okay to go.
Oh.
And we were all there with him at night. And everybody else was sort of just on their phones or kind of falling asleep or whatever. But I was giving him Reiki.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's one of my favorite things to do as a Reiki master is to sit with someone who's in a hospital bed and just give them energy for whatever they want to use it for.
It's like an angel.
And I saw his soul leave his body.
Yeah. Oh,
I saw it the moment he passed, and it wasn't a figure. It wasn't like ghost. It was like light.
Okay.
It was like I could see his energy.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to his body floating. It was just a very ethereal thing, and I felt it more than I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was really, really clear. And then he was he flatlined and they pronounced him passed. So that's probably the most impactful moment. And I had it all to myself. No one else saw it. They were all either distracted or dozing at the time. So it was just for me. And it's very special.
That is so special.
Yeah.
It put me back in that feeling too. But when my grandmother passed, her energy collected about 2 feet above her and stayed there.
Oh,
and
wow.
I could go down here. No. Up here. Yes. No. Yeah. I should have been doing other things, I guess. So when you're telling that story, I went right back to that feeling and stuff. So thank you. Yes. So we got 1 minute. I want to know, promote your stuff. What's going? Where do we get a hold of you? And what are we looking forward to next?
Well, I'm going to start doing lives on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, definitely follow Destiny Charm Divin. And you can put it in the show notes if you can, because it's not, the divination was too long. So it's Destiny Charm Divin. Okay. And so I'll be doing that starting this coming Thursday. So by the time you hear this and see this, it will already be going on. That's my accountability to myself so that I don't back out, chicken out. Destiny Charm Divination is the website. And I also have a TikTok shop. And because my journaling told me to, I'm about to set up an Etsy shop. So more info on that to come.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's what I'll share for now. And I just really appreciate being able to spend some time and be on with you and be the highlight. I'm much better as the interviewer.
Yeah.
Co-host. So
I
this was a little outside my comfort zone, but I really, really enjoyed sharing.
Yeah, thank
with
you.
today.
I can't wait till we
appreciate
have you on more because the fun, the friendship, that this is all fun, you know? Yeah. Right.
Yay.
Jessica, do you have anything you want to say before we go, Jessica?
Trista's amazing. That is all. And I really just will lean into the fact that I've worked with Trista, and I didn't even leave it out of her introduction that she is a co-host on Project Joy Live as well. So it's a pleasure to work with her in these different arenas, and having been on the receiving end of some of the charms and the love, the coaching that I receive with those, it's unmatched. So go follow her, and that's all.
Yeah, let's do this. Reach out to Trista and get a charm reading. Woo, woo, woo.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Teresa. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Let's do it again. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Bye, buddy.
Yeah.